Dark ocean, low rumble of engines. A periscope view cuts across moonlit waves. Narrator, urgent, cinematic. Imagine a weapon so advanced it could prowl beneath the oceans of the world, unseen and unstoppable, never needing to rise for air. In the closing years of World War II, Nazi Germany came closer than anyone realized to creating such a machine. It was called the Type XXI U-boat, Elektroboote, a submarine decades ahead of its time. Faster, deadlier, and able to remain submerged for days, it was the ultimate expression of Hitler's desperate gamble to win the war at sea. But why did this miracle weapon appear too late? And how did it change everything that followed? The U-boat legacy narrator. In the early years of the Second World War, the Atlantic belonged to the U-boats. Packs of gray wolves, sleek submarines commanded by young, daring men, struck fear into Allied shipping. Merchant convoys burned in the night, sailors scrambled into lifeboats, and Britain's lifeline to the world trembled on the edge of collapse. This was the Kriegsmarine's happy time. We hear voices from war diaries. "We controlled the ocean," one U-boat veteran later wrote. "We felt invincible beneath the waves." Narrator. But victory bred complacency. Allied scientists and tacticians responded with deadly innovation: radar, sonar, code-breaking, long-range patrol aircraft. By 1943, the hunters had become the hunted. German submarine losses skyrocketed. What had once been the Reich's most potent weapon was now a death trap for its crews. The desperation for a game-changer narrator. Hitler's Germany had always believed in secret weapons, the Wunderwaffen that would crush its enemies with sheer technological superiority. As the Allies closed in, the dream of a new U-boat became an obsession. The old Type XXI boats, built for surface cruising with limited underwater endurance, were outmatched. Something radically different was needed: a true submersible, not just a ship that could dive. Archival quote, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz: "We must return to the offensive. The new boats will restore the initiative at sea." Narrator. Deep inside design bureaus in Hamburg and Kiel, engineers began drawing a submarine unlike any before. The Type 21 would be the first vessel in history built to operate mainly underwater. Its nickname, Elektroboote, reflected the heart of its power: a battery system so large and efficient it could keep the boat submerged for days. Engineering a revolution narrator. To understand the Type 21, you must picture a weapon forged under siege. Its hull was longer, sleeker, and more hydrodynamic than any predecessor. Where older U-boats achieved just 7 knots submerged, the new boat could reach 17.5 knots underwater, faster than most escorts could chase. For the first time, a submarine was truly safer below the waves than on the surface. We highlight 3 breakthroughs: advanced batteries, twice the capacity of earlier boats, allowing extended submerged operation. Streamlined hull, a teardrop form reducing drag, presaging modern submarine shapes. Modular construction, sections built in factories across Germany, then transported and welded together in shipyards. A radical method meant to accelerate production. Narrator. Inside, automation cut reloading time dramatically. In just 10 minutes, all 6 torpedo tubes could be ready to fire again. A radar-absorbing snorkel mast allowed the diesel engines to run while the boat stayed at periscope depth. Combined, these innovations promised a weapon Allied convoys could not escape, but the narrator's tone darkens. Yet every leap forward carried a hidden cost. War under pressure. Narrator. By 1944, Germany was being bombed around the clock. Industrial centers lay in ruins. Skilled workers were drafted into the army. The very shipyards tasked with building the new boats were crumbling under Allied air raids. An engineer later recalled, "We were expected to perform miracles with rubble and ashes." Narrator. Modular construction, intended to speed production, instead created chaos. Sections built in dispersed factories arrived warped, incomplete, or riddled with defects. Welding errors led to leaks. Subcontractors lacked materials. The Reich's miracle weapon was being born in the twilight of defeat. Into the water. Too late, narrator. Despite everything, the first Type 21 boats entered service in 1945. Crews trained feverishly on systems no one had used before. But time was the one resource Germany no longer had. The Allies were already across the Rhine. In the Atlantic, their escort carriers and hunter-killer groups ruled the seas. We meet Kapitän-Leutnant Adalbert Schnee, one of the few commanders to take a Type 21 on patrol. His boat, U-511, slipped into the North Atlantic in April 1945. By 1943, the ocean had become a graveyard for U-boats. Allied escort groups hunted in packs of their own, guided by radar and sonar. Long-range aircraft scoured the mid-Atlantic gap. German submarines could no longer rise to the surface without risking annihilation. In Berlin, Admiral Karl Dönitz faced an impossible problem. The weapon that had once been his pride had turned into a death trap for its crews. Yet Hitler's faith in secret weapons, his Wunderwaffen, remained unshaken. Somewhere there had to be a miracle, a technology that could reverse the tide at sea. Deep inside design bureaus in Hamburg and Kiel, naval engineers began sketching something radically different. No more diesel-electric boats that spent most of their time on the surface. What Germany needed now was a true submersible, a vessel designed from the keel up to live beneath the waves. They called it the Elektroboote. Engineering a revolution. Narrator. The Type 21 was unlike anything the Kriegsmarine had fielded before. Where earlier U-boats were essentially surface ships that could dive for short periods, this new design was a predator built to remain hidden for days at a time. Its hull was longer, sleeker, and shaped like a teardrop to cut through water with minimal drag, a form that would become standard for all modern submarines. Twin electric motors drove it silently at unprecedented speed. Submerged, it could reach more than 17 knots, faster than most Allied destroyers could manage underwater. At its heart lay an enormous battery bank, double the capacity of any previous U-boat. These cells gave the Type 21 an underwater endurance that stunned Allied analysts when they first saw the blueprints. Add to that a retractable snorkel mast, which allowed the diesels to run while the boat stayed at periscope depth, and you had the makings of a weapon that could roam the oceans almost without surfacing. Inside, automation transformed the pace of attack. 6 forward tubes could be reloaded in minutes rather than hours. Entire torpedo salvos could be fired, reloaded and fired again before an escort even closed the range. For the first time, the hunter beneath the waves was truly more dangerous submerged than surfaced. War under pressure. Narrator. But the revolution came at a terrible moment. By 1944, Allied bombers were pounding Germany day and night. The shipyards that were supposed to mass-produce the new submarines lay in ruins. Skilled workers were conscripted into the army. Materials were scarce, and deadlines impossible. To speed production, Berlin ordered the boats built in prefabricated sections. Factories across the Reich manufactured slices of hull and shipped them to coastal yards for assembly. In theory, this modular construction would be faster. In practice, it was chaos. Sections arrived warped or incomplete. Welding errors leaked. Vital equipment was missing. Each new boat became a patchwork of improvisation and shortage. One engineer later recalled, "We were expected to perform miracles with rubble and ashes." Even as the Allies closed in on Germany's borders, the Type 21 crept toward completion, a miracle weapon being born in the twilight of defeat. To understand why the Type 21 mattered, you have to go back to the first years of the Second World War. In those days, The Atlantic belonged to the Gray Wolves, the U-boats of Admiral Karl Donitz. They prowled the shipping lanes at night, their commanders often no older than 25, their crews hardened by icy spray and claustrophobic dives. British convoys burned, lifeboats drifted among oil slicks. Britain's lifeline to the world trembled. For a time, it looked as if Germany might strangle an island nation into submission without ever firing a shot on land. But that dominance did not last. The Allies learned fast. Radar, sonar, Huff-Duff, long-range patrol aircraft, and inside the code-breaking huts of Bletchley Park, Enigma's secrets spilled. By 1943, the tide had turned. The hunters had become the hunted. U-boat losses climbed so high that a German submariner's life expectancy was measured in patrols, not years. The once mighty wolf packs were now being torn apart before they could strike. Narrator, quiet, reflective. In the end, the Type XXI U-boat is a story of paradox. It was a weapon too late to fight, yet too important to ignore. It failed its creators, but transformed its captors. And it reminds us that even in defeat, innovation can cast a long shadow, sometimes longer than victory itself. Pause. Sound of ocean fading. Narrator, final line. Beneath the surface of history lie currents we barely understand. The Type 21 was one of them, a shark built for a dying ocean whose wake still ripples through the depths today. As camera pans over the wreck of U-534, standing inside, you feel both awe and sadness. Awe at the technological leap, sadness at the thought of what humans do with such brilliance when driven by war.